You ready for this?
Oh, let's pretend it's cold. We're talking about freezing pipes.
Okay. On today's show, preparing your plumbing for winter.
Who told you we're plumbers? We're plumbers.
Richard Sod
John Eccles.
in the flesh. He's been sick a week.
Yep.
I was out before that a little bit. Glad that we're both back.
That's right. So before we get into how we're going to prepare our house for winter, let's talk about, just real briefly, about winters in Houston, right? So
We have those?
we do have them. As a matter of fact, right? I know you're not popular with this, but the Farmer's Almanac says this should be a pretty devastating winter for the Houston area.
We are in farming.
Yeah.
That's why we're reading the almanac.
I don't have any carrots or potatoes, but that's what it says.
I'm in the city. Around us, there are some chickens running around, but that's about it.
Well, if anybody watches the news, it did say that this is one of the earliest snowfall and freezes in Houston history. So the frigid weather has come early, and it should come often, is what they're saying. So with that being said, we want to go through a few things. First of all, just because it dips right below freezing doesn't mean that everything in your house is going to freeze and explode. And
What do you mean? That's what the news tells me.
Well, what they're telling you is, and you should take it very seriously, because when it does happen, it could be very traumatic. The temperature needs to drop below and stay below freezing for a long time. If it just dips below and then heats back up, that's not enough time to freeze the amount of water that we're talking about, unless the temperature is far enough below freezing to speed up that process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and how does that look? Maybe 25.
Yeah.
Below that, we'll speed it up.
Yeah.
But, usually we get temps between that 25 and 32, and it's going to take more than 12 hours to freeze your pipes. Right. So, where we really get in danger is when it hovers around that 28, 29 all night.
Right.
The next day it gets up to 32 to 35.
That's when we're in trouble.
And then boom, the next night it goes back down below that 32. That's when we start getting the phone calls.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Things are breaking left and right. Last year, how many phone calls did we get in one day?
Oh, we were averaging right around 1,000.
I think it was for the first day.
Yeah.
Second day went down, I think, to close to 600.
I know
that's really hard to manage, you guys.
The week of the freeze, we answered more phone calls in that week than we normally do in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, a lot.
Yeah, and that and honestly, it wasn't even that bad of a freeze. We had only a couple of days of freezing temperatures. But what we don't want to see is low is below freezing and the high is barely above freezing. Mm-hmm. That's that margin where we really get into some gray area and things can go bad.
And that's when things break.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's go over a few tips to help you prevent that. Number one thing, wrap your pipes. Exposed piping, pipe in the attic, things that are susceptible, you need to wrap them with insulation. It's pretty easy to do as long as you grab the right size insulation. It's really simple. It has tape on it. It goes around. It tapes together. It's not hard. I mean, it's styrofoam almost. Right?
If you go to it is, and if you go to the big box store, they'll actually have that on the box itself and tell you what size and what it fits. Because your OD of copper, your OD of galvanized, and your OD of plastic is different. So on that box, it's going to tell you, hey, it's going to fit this size pipe and what type of pipe.
Yeah.
So make sure and get the right one so your pipe is fully covered. That's important.
Yeah. Especially stuff that's out in the elements, risers to your house, your riser to your sprinklers, all those things definitely need to, because they're out there in the elements of the wind, which, believe it or not, you've heard wind chill factor. The wind definitely affects how cold something is. So when you have cold water, freezing temps, and the wind's blowing on it, that's not a good thing. What if they get caught in a bad situation? You ever procrastinated?
That's my middle name.
Hey, I've procrastinated,
and I think we both have done this.
Yeah.
So let me give you a way to handle this if the box stores that you're going to don't have any insulation left, because you're a last minuter, right? Yeah, you're going in on the 12th hour going, oh, my hose is undone, my this is undone, and I need some help. Well, if you can't find any products to help you cover and get ready for that evening, wrap a towel around it.
That's right.
We're probably going to get some hate mail telling you to wrap a towel around it, and that's okay. Because you know what? We have both wrapped towels around piping that were exposed.
Absolutely.
And guess what? We didn't freeze.
Nope.
So it does work. It keeps the wind. It keeps that cold bitterness off of, let's say, the hose bib. And you can even do it with your sprinkler backflow system.
Yeah.
They don't make any covering for that because it's supposed to be open to the atmosphere.
Right.
And in saying that, if you wrap a towel around that, it's going to help you. And that's the number one thing that breaks when it really gets cold for an extended period of time, is that backflow.
Yeah, so I mean, that towel will work. Like Richard's saying, it's something to use in a pinch. It's not the proper or, the ideal way to do it. But
make sure and take it back off after the freeze.
Yeah, when you're in a pinch,
especially on the backflow.
When you're in a pinch, it absolutely works, and it's doable.
Now, in saying that, let's talk about hoses. I'm one of those guys that I kind of get lazy, and I've got my on the end of the hose, I've got my my
trigger.
sprayer. Yeah, my sprayer. And I have a tendency on leaving my hose charged with water, and when I get home, I just pick it up and start spraying some flowers, right?
All right.
Kind of been enjoying that lately, you guys. But you don't do that. When it freezes, what's going to happen is it's going to break your hose, and it could possibly back it up into that hose bib and break it where it's behind the wall.
Absolutely.
So you want to disconnect that hose and make sure it's drained of water, or it's going to freeze and break.
That's right.
For sure. That's going to be the first thing to go. Anything to add to that? Does that ever happen to you?
No, it has happened to me, but I think it's pretty simple, right? Disconnect it, make sure your hose bib's off and wrapped, and you should be all right. Jumping back to the sprinkled backflows, like Richard said a second ago, that's the number one thing that's going to pop. That's normally the number one thing that's going to burst. We definitely want to make sure those are wrapped and make sure that they're drained. We're not going to go into detail about that, but on our Facebook page, we have a great step-by-step blog about how to winterize your backflow. So please check that out if you need that done. It doesn't take long. It's pretty simple, but check that out for detailed instructions.
In layman's terms, that's draining it down where the water has no opportunity to freeze. It's actually on our website at nixplumbing.com as well.
Okay.
So they can get it on both places. It's got a great illustration on how to do it and a simple way how to do it.
Let's talk about inside the house now. What can we do for some things inside of the house? All that stuff was kind of outdoors.
Right.
Indoors, what are some of the things that we can do?
Typically, kitchen sinks are on an outside wall.
Right.
Some of your plumbing cabinets, as far as lavatories, are on exterior walls. Anything that's on an exterior wall and you're really nervous about it, we're having an extended period of coldness, open up those cabinet doors. Let the ambient heat from your house permeate into that cabinet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's going to help that area that normally doesn't have airflow, that's normally shut off from some other things in the house, get some much needed warmth that'll help resolve, or at least put off some of that freezing. Another thing that you can do, and again, we might get kicked back for this, but, leave a little bit of water dripping or running out of your faucets. Again, moving water has less tendency to freeze.
Oh, man, that sounds expensive, leaving my faucets dripping.
It's a lot cheaper, I guarantee you, than the repair you'd have to pay for a broken pipe.
Oh, man, you might be talking about hundreds. Like he said, though, it's going to be a lot cheaper to let it drip than pay us to come fix it.
It is. It is. It really is, and it really does work. Again, though, if you're really a green person and don't want to waste that water, these are just tips. These aren't live-bys. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But again,
we're letting you know it's a good suggestion.
It's a good suggestion.
Because water flowing through the pipes help it not from freezing. The stagnant water freezes, right? I mean, that's pretty common sense.
Absolutely.
But man, that's expensive.
And last but not least, inside your house, leave the heat on. You definitely want the heat inside of the home to be warm. It helps keep everything else warm, just like anything else. Just like the sun outside, right? When the sun comes out and it heats everything up, well, everything's got to cool off before anything gets cold, the concrete, anything. So everything in your house is going to hold that heat to help keep everything warm. And with your plumbing, that does matter, especially when we're talking about the temperatures that we're going to be facing this winter.
And what that also means is when you go out of town, don't turn your heat off. Maybe you want to try to save money. Don't do it. Leave the heat on a constant temperature. Whether it's 50 or 60, okay, that's above freezing, right? Put it down. But if we're going to be, and you're going out of town and you know we're going to have some weather coming up, or even if you don't, make sure your heat stays on.
Yeah.
Because when you come home and your house is flooded and it's coming out the front door and the back door, it isn't going to be pretty. And how many times have we seen that?
That's not good at all.
I've seen that a lot. So don't do it. Leave your heat on, period.
That's it.
That's it. That's exactly right. How about anything else that we can tell them, any tips that we can give them? What are you thinking? We told them about the towel, wrapping it, wrap your hose bibs with a towel if you don't have something, wrap the sprinkler backflow if you don't have something, turn that heat on, make sure it stays on. I think we've done a pretty good job, Mr. Eccles, on that.
I think they're covered. You know, now you just need a little bit of luck.
And when you're not, something goes wrong, we're always here for you.
That's right.
If you have any questions on how to wrap that towel around the backflow, call us. We're going to tell you. We're experts.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching today's show. We'll see you next week.